Thank you, Diane. That was beautiful. My humility is the thing I'm proudest of. A group of Unitarians, small group ministry, were sitting around talking about how bad things are. And we know how bad things are. And one of the themes that came out of the discussion was, well, I can't do anything by myself. I'm alone. What can one person do? What can one person do? And I really wanted to talk about it more, but I decided to write a song instead. We have all been just one person. We've stood alone so many times till others came and stood with us and together made our hearts shine. Dr. King walked to Montgomery, leaving Selma's pain far behind, till others came and walked with him and together made their hearts shine. They carried banners that were called "Oh Glory" and signs that said, "I am a man." As their hearts started shining and their hearts started pining, the whole world came to understand. We have all been just one person. We've stood alone so many times till others came and stood with us, and together we made our hearts shine. When Gandhi walked to the ocean, he started out walking alone till others came and walked with him, and together like diamonds they shone. They were walking for Indian freedom. They fought an old and proud empire. They walked long and hard together, and they lit a burning freedom fire. We have all been just one person. We stood alone so many times till others came and stood with us, and together we made our hearts shine. I don't usually introduce a sermon or apologize in advance for a sermon, but I have processed what I'm about to say with a lot of people, and the darn thing just has a capacity of chaos and madness about it. I delivered a version of this sermon to another UU congregation about a month ago, and one friend came up to me afterward and he said, "That has to be the most brilliant, wonderful, informative sermon I have ever heard in my entire life, and I'm still not exactly sure what you were talking about." Let's all take a deep breath and note that we are all breathing the same air as a kind of tribute to the oneness that we are all part of. The oneness that is indicated not only by the fact that we're all sitting together in the same room, but the oneness that is indicated by the light on the trees outside and the greens and the golds. This is easily the most difficult sermon I have ever constructed, and it will be extremely uncomfortable to deliver. If it makes you angry, count 10. And as Mark Twain advised, if it makes you very angry, swear. But why? Why, you may ask, would it make you angry? Or why is it so difficult to put together and deliver here today? Because it is about everything. Everything. The most distant star imaginable at the ultimate horizon of the universe, and the tiny living cells that are beating in each of our hearts. It is about massive hugeness, and it is about tininess at a level that is hard to contemplate. The entire universe supports us. From that star that is 93 million miles away and pours out all this wonderful hot weather we're having, down to those stars, those subatomic structures of our shared breath. In our training as speakers, we were told to avoid numbers. People who are listening to a talk don't really want to hear numbers. Numbers are hard to get into your mind and hear. So I'm going to give you a few numbers right now, but I'm going to do it quickly, and I'm going to do it emphatically so you'll get them. Here we go. The human body contains 50 trillion living cells. Wow, preacher, that's a lot of cells you're talking about there. Just exactly what is 50 trillion? I'm glad you asked. 50 trillion is 50,000 times a billion. Oh, that is a big number. Can you say a little more about that? It is 50 million times a million. Now we're talking a really big number, but so what? Why is that important? What does that have to do with the difficulty of this sermon? 50 trillion living cells working in concert keep us alive through all kinds of biological functions, some dying, some coming into being for the first time in every moment. These cells point to whatever might be making all this happen. When Thea read her prayer just now, she said, it goes by many names. Whatever might be making all this happen. That, my beloved, precious, Unitarian, Universalist sisters and brothers, is ineffable oneness. Oh dear, now the cat is out of the bag, the horse is out of the stall, and some of you are going to be confused, while others of you might even become angry and start to swear. I'm sorry, I wish I could bring you better news, but just as the ancient Hebrews refused to give it a name, just as the Oglala Lakota Sioux have refused to give it a name, I am telling you the best path for us this morning is to refuse to give it a name. Whatever is making all this happen. Ineffable, nameless, not to be named. One seminary professor told us at the beginning of class that T-R-E-E is a very good word for those big plants that are out there in the yard. T-R-E-E. And then he said G-O-D is utterly inadequate to what we are dealing with. To name a thing is to set it in a separate place. We call trees by the name of trees so that we will plant trees and not phone poles. Naming is a very important function of language, and language gives us the ability to communicate with each other and ourselves. How strange it would be to ask one of our children to go out and get in the car and to go out and find them in the garbage can. No, honey, I said car, not can. Words are powerful. Words have meaning. They define reality, or what we call reality. I love that George Carlin once said, reality, what a concept. But there is something in the stars, something in the subatomic structure of our hearts and hands and feet, the tips of our noses. That's something for which we have no meaningful, workable name. It is ineffable oneness. But what does that even mean? Some of you are beginning to despair or cock your heads in confusion. It's okay. Barbara Ehrenreich wrote in a book called Living with a Wild God, which, just in case you're tempted to jump up and run out of the room, she was a confirmed atheist for her entire life. She said that she had experiences as a teenage girl that she couldn't write about for 50 years after the experiences. She doesn't call it ineffable oneness. She calls it the place beyond words. And that may work better for some of you this morning. The place beyond words. Who does this guy think he is, using words to bring us to the place beyond words? It's kind of like a magic trick. Go back to the beginning of our time together, the most distant star at the ultimate horizon, the tiniest subatomic particle at the center of one tiny living cell in our hearts. And consider that in your heart, in your brain, in your ears and nose and throat and toes and fingertips, there are 50 trillion living cells. And somehow in all of that, there is something more. Something beyond naming, something that has meaning in what Barbara Ehrenreich calls the place beyond words. Maybe it is transcendent, out of reach. If we can't name it, maybe we can at least feel it, transcending everything. Everything. Every breath, every star, every moment, every subatomic structure, every subatomic particle, everything. And if it is there, if it is universal, maybe we can use it to soothe us when the battles of life give us fear or frustration or anger or anxiety. Maybe we can sleep in the certainty that it is there, holding everything together while we sleep. It may be beyond naming, but it is there, and we are part of it. The great Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh nailed it when he said, "We must all awaken from our illusions of separation." If you look in the back of these gray hymnals, there are readings from 13 world religions, including atheism. Why is this important? For today's purposes, it is important that we notice so many names have been given to that which cannot be named. Buddha, Krishna, even the ineffable oneness which came in the days of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Jesus, Babaji, Kuan Yin, and in the case of one dear friend of mine, the flying spaghetti monster. Some of you will find this silly, but please listen very carefully. The flying spaghetti monster is perhaps the best illustration of what I am working desperately to convey here today. This satirical, hilarious religious movement, begun 20 years ago, has drawn followers from all over the world. A man named Bobby Henderson wrote to the Kansas State School Board in 2005 saying, if you are going to teach intelligent design next to evolution in the Kansas school system, then by golly, you got to teach the flying spaghetti monster too. And he won. He won. The church is now so widely recognized that a woman in New Mexico was able to have her driver's license picture taken with a colander on her head. Because the colander is a sacred object to people who love spaghetti. You may want to call it natural law, but be careful, because thinking that phrase covers the subject will get you into trouble with a physicist. Niels Bohr, who looked as deeply as anyone into the structure of the atom, said simply, matter does not exist. I told that to Celia on the way in this morning, and she went, matter does not exist. Put that on a bumper sticker and ride around Wilmington with it on the back of your car. Matter does not exist. My beloved wife Gabriel was listening to Deepak Chopra talk about subatomic structure. And we started talking about how Niels Bohr said matter does not exist. And she added, matter does not exist and it doesn't matter. My beloved brother who's with us today, and I appreciate him so much, I think he is easily as fine a person as Celia Rivenbark. He and I often bemoan the insanity of what is happening in our government especially. And often these conversations will end with him simply affirming, it's a crazy world. And so we are encouraged to take deep breaths and relax into the roller coaster rides of our present times. We might all notice from time to time, it's a crazy world. But just beyond all that jingle jangle, there is an ineffable oneness, a presence, a steady hum of universal connectedness. Despite Niels Bohr's affirmation that matter does not exist, atomic structure feels like it's holding pretty steadily. Gravity still works. Maybe there is a natural order to things that makes birds sing and the sun come up each morning. And if we are all part of that, perhaps we can, in our own ways, breathe a sigh of relief and be thankful for ineffable oneness. And if we need to embrace a name, if we need to call it something, we might even embrace the flying spaghetti monster. Those bumper stickers are available online if you want to get one. But before we stop thinking about this, consider one more story about trying to name that which cannot be named. Moses at the burning bush. He wanted a name. The bush said, I am. Tell them I am sent you. And Moses said, that doesn't really work for me. Help me. Moses was from South Georgia. Moses knew there were a lot of names, lots of temple gods, lots of other gods who were assumed to have natural powers, supernatural powers. There were sun gods and water gods and crop gods and fertility gods. And he wanted to know from that voice in the burning bush, which one of these gods are you? And the voice came back and said, tell them I am that I am. As you've already heard, the ancient Hebrews thought it was sacrilege to name the voice in the bush. The Oglala Sioux have always believed that which hangs the stars and controls the subatomic structure of our hearts is too sacred to name. May we all breathe together as we consider the likes of that and consider the words of Bobby Henderson, the creator of the flying spaghetti monster religion. I think we can all look forward to the time when these three theories are given equal time in our science classrooms across the country and eventually around the world. 1/3 time for intelligent design, 1/3 time for the flying spaghetti monster, and 1/3 time for logical conjecture based on overwhelming observable evidence.